Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is going to be riveting, unbelievably, hopefully. And I gotta try to bring it down. Alright, so a little bit about Swinerton. More or less, we're everywhere on the West Coast. We're the largest contractor in California by a factor of, I think, $300 million. To kind of give you some scale, we do a lot of super high rises, we do casinos. I think we may have built this. I could be wrong. I know we've done a lot of work for Paula in the past. We're also doing work for other casinos, Sequan, Viejas, Pauma. What's another one? Not Hollywood, we didn't do Hollywood. I'm shooting to get into Honolulu office eventually. We'll see. So, construction geolocation, that basically is just like the architect before me. It's about context. It's about understanding logistics. It's about understanding where you're at, what the limitations could be. So, are we there? Is that geolocation? Not so much. Sometimes that's all we receive on architectural site maps, it seems like. Other times, we do get something that has crossroads, or sometimes we get a model. Sometimes we can look up on Google Earth where this building's supposed to be. But the best is definitely having both combined together. And Fuzor allows us to do that quite seamlessly, paired with whatever type of software you choose to pull the context in, whether that's SketchUp, or InfraWorks is my personal favorite because it takes practically zero work on my part. It's all automatically generated. And this provides us with such great detail. We're able to take this client of this hotel, have them walk out of the street, walk out onto the street, down, and go to the bar 2 blocks away from this hotel. And that's going to be what he's going to do very frequently, is what he keeps telling us. So what does this value add to it? Obviously there's context, there's proof and some validation. One of our pre-construction jobs that we had just finished, and a feeling for the environment, but one of the pre-construction jobs that we had just finished was in La Jolla, down in San Diego, and we had value engineered in the wrong direction, specifically because the owner wanted to see the ocean. And there it is. One of the ways that we were able to prove that we could do that is, first of all, by the traditional sight lines of a cross-section, just like what was talked about prior. But also, I pulled the model in, I pulled a context, and I matched the elevations. Lo and behold, from the amenity deck, you can see the ocean. It provides such a comfort to the client that they are getting that extra $5 million worth of value. And here is, and I think this, no, I don't trust me. And oh, sure, of course it doesn't work now. It worked 20 times yesterday. All right, we will just pull it up really quick. So this is kind of fast, but I created this a couple months ago, I think. It's a little outdated now, but this is all of our downtown projects. So anybody that's been San Diego downtown, you see our Swinny, and I forget the other guy's nickname, but you see it everywhere. Just like with the LA one that we just saw, we pulled in 10 miles by 10 miles. We pulled in 100 square miles of San Diego, and I pulled 10 full Revit files into this. Created this huge animation, and now it's one of our best marketing campaigns. It provides such context, and for maybe some owners that are on the fence about building a project, maybe they've heard about us, when they see this and see everything that was active as of this last couple months ago, then that speaks a lot about our experience. I could create another one that would tell all the projects that we've ever done downtown, but that would probably be about 30 minutes. As a matter of fact, this video, since it's been created, we have 3 other projects downtown currently, beyond what you just saw. Perfect. And the second part of my presentation is coordination methods. So it's what most people think about coordination is just MEP coordination or BIM coordination. There's so much more that goes on a project. It's not just me talking to subcontractors. It's coordination of materials. It's coordination of submittals. There's a whole bunch of other data, and there's options, means and methods. I mean, I could go on and on, right? So what tools do we use to coordinate this? It could be project management software that sends data back and forth for somebody to click check yes, check no. Could be all sorts of stuff that's very boring and I don't like it at all. The next part, I just didn't like the coordinating. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So, are we coordinating something simple like possibly design options or any owner-driven change? This is Ricky. He's part of the tribal council at VA House Casinos. He argued with my PM and PX for probably 3 months about getting a larger bathtub. That's all that he wanted. Larger bathtub in the suites, which every single room at VA House is a suite, by the way. That's just, again, what they wanted to do. But after months and months of deliberation, I finally got sick and tired of seeing the emails go back and forth. I put it all in Fuzor, made a design option. Here's the tub he wanted. He put the goggles on for about 20 seconds, and he said, nope, change it back. So we did. It was, oh gosh. Maybe if I were to total up all the hours that I worked on everything but the Fuzor model, and the whole team and all the other meetings about, well, you really don't want this tub. It's far too big. It sticks out across the shower. It sticks out past the vanity there. It's too cumbersome. I mean, the space doesn't allow for it. And we tried to convince him that over months and months, and he finally, after seeing it and feeling it and reaching out and nearly falling over, he understands. And that's one of the biggest issues that we kind of all have talked about is understanding the design, making sure that everybody understands what it's going to feel like. You just can't get away from the feeling that you get when you step into a space. And that statement's been repeated several times today. The second part is, what if we're doing something more complex? It could be means and methods. It could be some value engineering. I want you to meet Renee. He just started with us. He was an apprentice in our metal stud framing group. And we thought, he's showing a lot of gumption. He's got a lot of drive. Let's bring him into the office. And he started estimating for our drywall self-perform group. And he was looking at these plans of a ceiling that we were supposed to install. And as you can see, they get really creative in the ceilings of casinos. This was a whole other level, and he could not discern what in the world was going on. There wasn't enough cut sheets to explain this product, and I think the line weights might have been messed up in the Revit file. So all he saw was just a bunch of big black lines. Well, this is what it was, and he had no idea how any of this was supposed to work. So even though he's an estimator, even though he didn't even finish his apprenticeship program technically, and he came into the office and now he's a project engineer for our drywall group, he is able to understand really complex design issues, and that changes how he estimates it. Because if this is 10 feet taller than they thought it was because there was no cut sheets, then he's obviously going to mark that up a little bit more for the means and methods and the man hours that it takes to go higher. Anybody ridden a scissor lift up 20 feet? It takes a while. So if you have to go higher, if you have to go up and down repeatedly, the amount of schedule time that is needed for this task, it exponentially increases. And here's yet another ceiling. You can tell there's about 6 different levels within this ceiling. This is in their future convention center. And it, again, just another one of those things where the line weights were just far too thick for him to discern anything of use from the plans to estimate properly. And when they demanded to get us to give them a GMP off of DD sets, that was a challenge. So we were able to prove a lot of our concepts through VR and through the model and show not only the end client, but our own staff how to leverage this model and this data. Here's one of our superintendents, named Bob. He's really into touching some glass. But one thing that I ran through with him before he started doing some scheduling for this project was, well, that's all your pipe. Are you sure you got that from the single line drawing? Just curious, probably not. So from there, you can kind of see it's a little hard, but that's a sprinkler head. So this system right there is actually fire sprinkler, the rest of it's all plumbing. So how he sequenced that gets a little tricky then, because you have multiple trades going into the same spot, rather than just having it all pipework, which according to the drawings were just spaghetti, really. You can see it's a little crazy. And then beyond that, whether or not we had some issues with a kitchen in this hotel, they needed all these drop downs and single line drawings. Didn't really show these little pipes in there. So he was wondering how he needed to phase this in and which systems needed to go. Again, we have fire sprinkler and plumbing in the same space. So he needed to make sure that he tracked everything properly. And just some more equipment of the same project. You can see we actually have our metal stud framing model in here. So he can actually see where all the king studs, triple studs, all the critical elements, so that way he's sure that as our metal stud framing foreman is putting stuff in, that he's not going to run into any issues, which is pretty critical if you're running your own drywall work. And lastly, some material submittals and value engineering. This is Dan, one of our estimators, and a big tool for Fuzor is the fact that we can bring in SketchUp files. Dan here is our estimator specifically on our special projects group. So he deals in stuff less than $3 million, which I will usually never touch. We don't have enough data for the VD&C manager to really do anything. Maybe I'll laser scan and give them the laser scan for background, but that's about it. So when I got this SketchUp file, and this is a downtown San Diego project that we are tearing out the lobby of 701 B Street, and we're revamping the entire thing. It's going to look very, very, very different. So with some of these cut sheets that the architect were giving us, the details lacked a lot. It's really hard to publish drawings on SketchUp for anybody that does that. Very difficult. So for him to understand all the changes between one design and the other, instead of looking at all the plans, I just threw him in the model and showed him option A, option B. And he was able to go in, look at the materials, look at all the different options. I made notes for him while I was walking around, seeing everything. And he was able to get us down to, I want to say, like 1 or 2% of what the project actually costed, which is, that's pretty good. And Mark, didn't know you were going to be in here. This is actually our VD&C group out of OCLA testing out the VR rig that I bit the bullet and bought first out of Swinerton. And it's just spreading the wealth of knowledge of VR helps the business out in almost every aspect. And the benefit of all this is if you have the right people, the right timing on the project, and the right process, right software, all that stuff, you end up with more profits, more success. And that is, thank you.